All right, we're already a minute overdue, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. Hope you've had an interesting day already here at Hacks. I'm glad you're stopping by. So first off, a little bit about myself. I'm Sil. I'm a Java developer here at Access for about 4 years now. And I'm currently consulting at one of Belgium's largest telecom providers. So what I want to talk to you about today is the story of me at this large enterprise. Shortly after I was hired there, I was explained the vision that this company tries to employ with regards to its development teams. You know, they want to have a healthy mix of expertise in each team. They want to have some people who are passionate about UI and UX. They want to have some people in a team that are strong backend profiles. And they also want to have at least one person with a focus on CI/CD. So fast forward to now, a year later, and I'm now the DevOps contact for that team. But the way there, for me, it wasn't smooth. You know, that journey from dev to DevOps, you know, I learned a lot of things. I learned that it's not just about building a Docker container and running it somewhere. So with that came a lot of lessons. So what I'm going to try to do in these 20 minutes that I have for you, I'm going to highlight some of the things that I learned and some of the strategies that I used, you know, to get where I am today. And that with the goal to hopefully inspire you, if you're new to DevOps, to, you know, take a similar path. It might be a little bit of a cliche at this point, but the first thing that I tried to do when I started at this company was networking. You know, I wanted to learn who's who, what's what's there, what isn't there. If there are any processes, you know, you need to learn the people that are there, and you know, get your footing. And so I learned that DevOps is talking to people. It's asking the right questions. It's about questioning the status quo respectfully. You know, and if you do that, people will start to notice you. And if people notice you, you know, a lot of doors start to open up, and you know, you get pulled into interesting conversations. So at this company, we use an internal IAM solution. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management, and one of the major things that this solution controls is the access control on the version control system. So it dictates what repositories, what Git repositories, what code you are allowed to look at and contribute to. And what the strategy that they try to employ there, or what they use, is least privilege. So by default, you can't see what others outside of your scope are doing. And I get that. I get where they're coming from. From a security standpoint, that's a very, you know, mature decision. But if you're trying to do DevOps, it's really hard because you can't see what people outside of your domain or outside of your tribe or circle or whatever fancy name you want to call it. If you don't have contributor rights to libraries that you depend on, or if you don't have an insight as to, you know, the CI/CD variables of the pipeline jobs that you run, it's really hard to do your job. It's really hard to diagnose and fix issues if they arise. So what happened was I expressed that I wanted to become the DevOps contact for my team. And you know, that got the ball rolling. I got access, maintainer access, to some of the major groups of repositories that my team was working on. And that allowed me to get those insights. And I was able to fix issues, diagnose issues more quickly, more efficiently. And by extension, that allowed me to establish credibility of my abilities within the company. And that in turn opened more conversations and opened more doors. So it turns out that if you apply this strategy on a global level or an organizational level, that has a name. It's called inner source. And what inner source is, it's using open source development practices to create an open source-like culture within an organization. And you know, you build a community of an open source-like developer community. So by having more access rights, and I was able to contribute to stuff like shared pipelines, stuff like shared Terraform modules. And by doing that, I was able to learn the intricacies of our deployment process. And that's super valuable. A side effect of this is also that if you start contributing to these shared pipelines in Terraform modules, for example, you start meeting people with the same idea, like-minded people. And if you meet these people and you network with them, keep in mind this is a very large enterprise, that's how you lay the foundation of an inner source community. I want to quickly clarify, though, that this is a utopia. We're not currently actively practicing this practice of inner source, but it's something that's alive in between the lines. People are trying to apply this in their own way. The thing that I saw at this company is that the majority of the developers there don't know their deployment process. They don't know how the tools that they use daily deploy the software that they write. And I think that's a shame, and by trying to open up the source, at least within the company, within the enterprise, that narrative is we're hoping to change that. So I learned that DevOps is learning and growing in a collaborative way. Contributing to all of this stuff also meant, for me at least, a massive productivity boost. It might be a little bit, controversial. Maybe there are some agile people in here or Scrum Masters. If you're contributing to shared code, like shared pipelines, you're not actively contributing to the sprint goal. That's true. But when an issue pops up, when a critical issue or a bug arises, if you know exactly the ins and outs of the process and the tooling, yeah, that's a massive performance improvement in the resolvement time of bugs. So yeah, I'm going to quickly explain this slide. I wanted to put an image of a centipede here, a dozen pot, but then I thought it might not be such a good idea to project that. There might be some people with arachnophobia or fear of insects, and then I wanted to show an image of the very hungry caterpillar, but then those folks aren't too cool about copyright-related stuff, so yeah, you're just going to have to deal with this. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is my day was very varied. I was doing all kinds of stuff. At one point I was setting up end-to-end testing of an Angular application with Cypress. The next I was learning Terraform to deploy AWS stuff like EKS clusters. My day would start trying to scale up our GitLab runners because we ran out of capacity again. And in the afternoon I was requesting firewall changes to allow connectivity between our services. These were all things that I'd never done before, and this was strange if I look back now, my productivity and my satisfaction levels were never higher. I finally felt challenged, and that feeling of deploying something and knowing exactly what makes it tick was very satisfying. And so I learned that DevOps is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's getting thrown into unknown situations and trying to save yourself. A few weeks ago, during a retrospective, which was themed around energy levels, one of my colleagues told me that they get their energy from doing tasks that are very close to their knowledge base. And I realized that the opposite now is more true. I get my energy from learning new things and delivering faster, helping others deliver faster, and doing and learning whatever it takes to get there. A couple months of working at this company, they went through a major reshuffling. So a lot of teams switched places. And this time, they do this quite often, every few years. This time the focus was to empower teams by giving them more ownership. And in the past, there were a lot of dedicated teams that worked on a very specialized facet of the application that they were responsible for. So you had teams that were working either on front-end related stuff or on back-end related stuff, and that had as a consequence that the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. So the leadership team saw that, and they, during this reshuffling, created new teams that had both of these groups of people in a team, and they called that ownership. And while building cross-functional teams is definitely a good step forward, I think there's more that you need to consider yourself an owner of something. I think, in my opinion, if you own the entire software development lifecycle, that's when you can say that you own something. And I think that's the reason why my team works as well as it does, because we own the business analysis and functional analysis process, because our team consists of developers, testers, business analysts, and functional analysts. There's no wall between us, because we're literally part of the same team. We sit next to each other. We own the development process because we write the code that we deploy that fulfills these business requirements. We own the deployment process because we wrote the tooling and we use the tooling and we know what it does. We own our data because we're the ones that deployed our databases. We're the ones that maintain them and recover them if something goes wrong. We're the ones who own our infrastructure because we're the ones that deployed it. I can keep going on like this, but the gist is that our team, my team, owns everything that our users interface with. Within boundaries, of course, because every team has dependencies, but that's the general gist. And that culture of, or that responsibility within our team breeds something very important: accountability. And if you nourish that culture of accountability within your company, you create a community that cares about the stuff that they own. For example, some of my colleagues already saw the sticker on my laptop. I hate CSS. You know, it's funny. Exactly just yesterday, me and my colleagues were having a discussion about a footer implementation. You know, that just goes to show, if you know me, I am not a front-end person at all, but I feel comfortable within my team to take the ownership or take the responsibility of improving something as meaningless in the grand scheme of things as a footer, which is just very nice to see. Now, a side note, it's also your responsibility, if you are part of an organization that applies DevOps, to contribute to that culture of accountability. You know, it means helping others. It means trying stuff out yourself. And the reason I'm saying this is that I still see a lot of my colleagues who just, when they have a failing build, ping an entire Teams channel and say, my build is broken, without any attempt at troubleshooting or asking any general questions. So lesson number 3 that I learned is that DevOps is accountability. And the result of collaboration and taking accountability is that at some point, people are going to come to you with questions. There might be questions about a library that you've written or a shared tool that you've written, or there might be general questions that they think you know the answer to because they heard your name somewhere in a meeting. And I love it to see when people come to me with questions about tooling that I wrote, because it means that I'm having an impact in their day-to-day tasks. If I'm improving their delivery process, that just feels awesome to me. But at some point, you might encounter a situation where someone is asking you a question that you don't know the answer to. And I learned that these moments of not knowing, you can turn them into opportunities. Of course, saying I don't know is an acceptable answer to these questions, but the detail is in how you say you don't know. For example, you could ignore their message or their email. It's a possibility, but I'm guessing it's not the preferred one. How about saying, I don't know, let's find out together? Or, I don't know, but I know someone that might. And doing this allows you to take these moments and improve yourself. Because, you might say, I don't have the time to always help everyone that comes to me with questions. And you're right, you don't. I don't either. But what you can do instead is you can say something like, I don't know, or I can't help you right now, but you can maybe talk to this person or read this piece of documentation, and I'll look at it later if you write something down. If you do this, if you actively try to push people to write stuff down, you create a shared knowledge base. And so I learned that DevOps is continuous improvement of processes and of yourself. So we're almost nearing the end of the time slot that I have for you today. So I want to close off with a summary or a conclusion, if you will. Over the last year, my skill set has grown massively. I'm expanding my horizon, I'm doing things that I've never done before, I'm having a ton of fun doing them, and I'm enjoying the freedom that comes with working in a DevOps way. But it's not just about the technical side. DevOps is talking to people. It's putting yourself out there. It's saying, I have ideas. I want to improve our process. Here's a suggestion. Here's why I think it might help us. Can we go over this? If I refer back to the inner source point that I made earlier, it's a lot easier to get something done if you do someone else's work for them. You know, when you go, hey, I would really like it if your thing could do this, they'll go, oh, sure, that sounds like a great idea. We'll put it on our backlog. I think we might have a slot somewhere in Q4 of 2027. If you instead go, hey, I would really like it if your thing could do this. Can we have a chat about the pull request that I made? The conversation is probably going to go in an entirely different direction. Secondly, forget about your comfort zone. You're going to be dropped into unknown situations. Things are going to go wrong. Don't care about it. You'll survive. Thirdly, accountability. DevOps is accountability. It's moving fast. It's breaking things. But it's also taking accountability when you break things. It's owning up to mistakes. And lastly, DevOps is about continuously improving the process and yourself. It's about questioning the status quo, and it's about doing everything you can to deliver better software faster. Thank you.